Now, the first thing that I want to do here, before I actually go through and install some of these plugins, is to actually remove some of the unnecessary plugins. A lot of times when you install WordPress, especially through a control panel's quick install, you end up with all these extra plugins on the site and you really don't end up needing them. In fact, the lower number of plugins that you can have activated on any given WordPress site, the better that site will perform. All of the activated code from a plugin has to be loaded anytime a page of your site is accessed. So simply having a couple of plugins as opposed to having 20 or 30 plugins installed on a site can cause your pages to load significantly faster. And this can have a big effect on your search rankings too. So I consider this to be a vital part. And also kind of as you progress through building your site, if you ever find yourself not using a plugin that you have installed and activated on the site, go ahead and deactivate it. If you're planning on using it later, that's fine. Just wait until you're actually ready to use it, perhaps, to get it activated. The one exception to that is when you're first setting up the site here, though. It is quite okay to go ahead and pile a couple different plugins on, the ones that you know you're going to use during your site construction. So anything you see underlined here on this page is the name of a plugin that we are going to be installing on this WordPress site. Step number 3 here, though, where it says download and install, these are the 2 Amazon plugins that I have actually included as part of this class. And then as part of this whole process, we're also going to be setting up Google Webmaster Tools and Google Analytics. So to start with, I'm going to go to the plugins page on my site, and we can see what is installed by default. There are actually 5 plugins that have all been put on this site, and 4 of the 5 are actually activated. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is select everything that is activated, and then I'm going to click on deactivate here and apply it to all of those. So now I have deactivated all the plugins on my site. I could leave them like this. The files still remain on my site, but the code is not actively being loaded when somebody tries to visit the site. However, if it's not something that I will end up using at a later point in time, I just go ahead and delete it, just because there's no point in having a bunch of plugins here that you don't use. So I'm going to select 4 of them again. The one that I am leaving behind is WP Supercache. I actually do use this plugin. However, I'm not going to actually use it until my site is complete. I find having this activated from the get-go can actually make it a little more difficult to build your site. Sometimes you'll make a change to a page and then you go and view that change and nothing happened and you think you did something wrong when in fact you're just viewing the old cached version of that particular page. So until I'm ready for that, I will leave that plugin in place and simply delete all of the others. So now I'm just left with this one plugin, and again, it is currently deactivated. So now I can proceed on with installing my other plugins. We're going to be starting here with one called Simple 301 Redirects. To find any of these plugins minus product style and ASON exit cache, you just go to plugins and add new, and then you can search for it in this bar right here. So I search for Simple 301 Redirects, and I can find the plugin right here and install it. So I am going to go ahead and activate this plugin now that I have it installed. The next ones that I need are product style and ASON exit cache. Again, I mentioned that these are the two included software titles that are part of this course. If you go to the members page, RyanStevensonMarketing.com/30-day challenge with hyphens in between each word there, you get to the course content page, and at the top here, you'll find the links to go and download Product Style and A30L Exit Cache. On each of these pages, once you click on those links, you will arrive to these separate download pages. You just need to look for the download plugin link. So this one here, download Product Style plugin. And then on A30L Exit Cache, download A30L Exit Cache plugin. So get these two plugins downloaded to your computer. Then you can come back to your website, go to Plugins and Add New. This can also be done from the top of the page here. This time, though, we want to click on Upload Plugin. And finally, we want to find the actual plugin. So now here, I have installed or downloaded Product Style. It's going to be called AMZPS, will be the first letters of that file. So I want to find it and click on Install. Now for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave Product Style and A30L Exit Cache deactivated. But I am going to go ahead and put this software on my site. So A30L Exit Cache is titled A30L Exit Cache. Once I have these ready, I can then proceed on to the next one, which is one called SEO Ultimate. Oops, I'm on the wrong page here. Now, SEO Ultimate is the plugin that I use for SEO enhancements on my WordPress site. There are a number of other alternatives to this plugin, things like Yoast SEO, all-in-one SEO. If you happen to be more familiar with one of those other plugins, you are welcome to use them. I don't necessarily consider one better than the other, but SEO Ultimate is one that I've been using for many years. My sites get good rankings with it, and so I simply have never bothered working with any of the other ones. So with this plugin installed and activated, I then have an SEO link in my sidebar. This SEO link contains all the sections that are available for this plugin. There are a couple of these that I always mess with right from the get-go. One of them is the Meta Robots link. This takes you to a section here that allows you to prevent the search engine indexing of a number of different types of pages throughout your site. And I actually end up selecting all of these with the exception of the two that say comment right here. This prevents things like author pages, admin backend pages, my login page, things like tag archives, date-based archives, category archives. Keeps all this extra stuff that WordPress generates, and it keeps it from getting indexed by the search engines. The reason why I do this, I only want Google and other search engines to be able to index the actual pages of content that I create, the ones that are going to contain that unique, meaningful content on them. Otherwise, you end up with potentially hundreds of other pages on your site that can end up having a lot of duplicate content on them, a lot of these ones that WordPress will generate. So I simply exclude everything again except for the two comments. Now next, I want to install a plugin called Google XML Sitemaps. This plugin is something that I use to automatically create a sitemap XML file, something that can be submitted to Google Webmaster Tools. And the plugin also actively updates that and keeps Google updated with those changes. And it even does this for Bing as well, but Google is the main reason why I'm using this plugin. Well, if you go to Settings and XML Sitemap, once you have this plugin installed and activated, you can see the URL of your sitemap right here. So for me, it's speedyssd.com/sitemap.xml. Now, I don't have any content yet on my site. And when I do write a post, it is automatically going to notify Google and also Bing about these changes. However, I still want to actually set this up for myself. So I want the address for my own XML file. And then finally, I want to go to Google Webmaster Tools. Now, if you don't know how to get to this, it's google.com/webmasters/tools. You can also find this by simply Googling the words Webmaster Tools. Now, I typically try to keep a lot of my sites separate when it comes to my Google accounts. However, you will kind of end up being limited in how many Google accounts you can create. So you kind of have to find a little bit of a balance there. I have my main balance with being the Amazon sites that I create privately and the ones that I've kind of created in public training courses. I kind of keep those separate so I don't end up ruining my pre-existing business by sharing all of my websites with people, because people do see my websites on these training courses and they blatantly rip them off. They'll register the .net or the .org version of my same exact domain name and put up word for word the same content that I have on my site as well. So with that said, I keep my stuff a little bit separate to a certain extent. You may not have a reason for needing to do that, though. You may be able to just pile all of your stuff up on one Google account. Signed into your Google account, though, you will be using this same account for both the Webmaster Tools and later for Google Analytics. So to start with, I want to add in a property here to Google Webmaster Tools. And this is going to be the domain name of my new site here. So now what I need to do is provide a verification method. You can download this HTML verification file. I typically do it this particular way, where I then go and upload it through the file manager in Control Panel or through FTP. However, there is also an alternative method, one of which is to add a meta tag. You can actually take this meta tag here and enter this into your site. If you go to SEO and miscellaneous, this is in the SEO Ultimate plugin, you actually have a little section down at the bottom here for the Google Webmaster Tools verification. However, notice how the whole string that I copied in here Notice how the beginning of it looks exactly the same as what you're seeing here. It's actually only asking for what is found between these content quotes right here. So I want to go right up to the first content quote and delete it, and I want to delete everything after that quote too. So I end up with just this string of letters and numbers. So this is going to be this middle part here. So unfortunately, Google Webmaster Tools makes it a little difficult to actually try to select that portion of it. You can see it right here in between the quotes. So simply pasting that in to SEO Ultimate here, it will actually verify my site through Google Webmaster Tools. So I can now click on Verify down below, and I have successfully verified my ownership of this site. Now for now, that's all you really need to do here. You're actually not going to have any other information available to you. The only thing you can really do, I'm sorry, there is one more thing we need to do here, and that is to submit a sitemap. Click on the bar up at the top here where it says Sitemaps, and you have your Add Test Sitemap button. And now it's just asking you for a link. So we want to enter in sitemap.xml for our base domain. If you've set this up in the base domain, just like I've shown you using the Google XML sitemap plugin, it should work in this same manner if you just type in sitemap.xml. So click in Submit, and this will submit our sitemap, and we can see whether it has picked it up correctly or not. Now, for me, I'm getting an error initially, and you're likely going to end up getting this same error too if you've followed my training so far. But you can actually ignore this one. The reason why is because we're not currently allowing Google to access our site. And this even includes the sitemap.xml file. So for now, it's not able to do this. But next week, when we actually start adding content to our site, we can change this and allow Google to index our site. And we can actually go ahead and resubmit this and get this cleared up. The next thing I want to worry about doing, though, is getting Google Analytics set up. When you log into your Analytics account, if you have existing properties already on that account, you'll see them presented here, and you can end up going into these and adding additional properties to them. What I really recommend to do, though, is keeping each of these separate. So they're all listed in a separate folder like you see here. The reason why is if you ever reach a point where maybe you want to sell one of your sites, you need them in separate accounts, essentially, under this listing account, as opposed to being separate properties. This actually would allow you to transfer an entire account over to a new user. But if you have multiple websites put under one account, you're not going to be able to do that. So what I'm looking for on this admin page is this account drop-down box here. And I want the link all the way down at the bottom that says Create New Account. So when I click on this, I can provide the information for my site now. So I call this BDSSD. Put in my website name and my website URL. And then I select an industry category. Now, if you can't find a relevant industry category here, it is okay. Just try to find whatever fits your subject matter the closest. The reporting time zone is for your own personal use. So the times are actually showing up in a time that you understand. For all these check boxes down at the bottom, I uncheck the bottom two. This gives people access to my account marketing specialist, technical support specialist, simply because I end up not using that kind of stuff. But I do leave these other two enabled, especially the benchmarking one. This helps to give you some extra data within analytics. So now we can click on Get Tracking ID, accept the terms of service, and finally we are provided with this script here. So what I want to do now is copy this entire script, and I'm going to paste it into a notepad file, and then I will come back to this in just a few minutes. So we have gone through and set up all of our plugins now, and I've also set up these additional website services, Google Webmaster Tools and Analytics. Now, just in case you're not familiar with these are going to help you to track your search rankings and also to help track your actual website traffic. So this becomes really useful later on once your website is actually completed.